Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Today we're going to be tackling a topic that's super relevant in the world of international relations. Specifically, we're diving into the Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA for short.
That's fascinating.
It is. And it doesn't matter if you're a UPSC aspirant getting ready for those tough exams, or a student just starting to explore geopolitics, or even if you're just curious about what's going on in this dynamic region, this deep dive is for you. And to make sure we really understand all the complexities, we've got an expert with us today.
Glad to be here.
So IORA, right, established back in 1997. Its main goal is to boost cooperation and development across the entire Indian Ocean region. And what I find really interesting is this tripartite approach.
Right.
It brings governments, businesses, and academia all to the table. It's not just about signing treaties and diplomatic handshakes.
It's more about building connections, creating a vibrant and interconnected community throughout the Indian Ocean Rim.
Okay, so this tripartite approach, I got to admit, it's got me intrigued. It sounds like they're really trying to involve everyone in this process. But before we get too far ahead, let's take a step back for a second. What exactly is IORA aiming to achieve? What are the driving forces, the big picture goals behind this organization?
Well, one of the key principles IORA embodies is open regionalism. Imagine you're building a house. You wouldn't want to limit yourself to just one type of material, right? You'd want the best bricks, the strongest wood, the most durable roof, no matter where they come from.
Makes sense.
That's the whole idea behind open regionalism. It's all about encouraging collaboration and economic integration for every single country around the Indian Ocean Rim. It's not about creating exclusive groups or shutting anyone out.
I get it. So it's like using the best of what each member brings to the table, no matter their political or economic standing. It's recognizing that when the tide rises, all boats float higher. So who are these members? Who are the key players in this collaborative house-building project?
IORA has a really diverse membership, 22 countries in total. You've got big economic players like Australia and Singapore, developing nations like Mozambique, and island states like Seychelles, each one with their own unique perspective and priorities. This diversity is definitely a strength, but you can imagine it also leads to some interesting dynamics.
Interesting dynamics. Now you've really got my attention. I have a feeling this is where things start to get complicated. What kind of dynamics are we talking about?
Well, for starters, Pakistan isn't a member of IORA. Their long-standing tensions with India, who is a key member, have kept them from joining. It highlights how even pre-existing conflicts can have an impact on regional cooperation. Then there's the growing influence of China, particularly through its Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
While some see it as a powerful tool for development, others, especially India, see it as a potential shift in the balance of power in the region.
So now we're seeing how the geopolitical chessboard comes into play. And speaking of key players on that board, let's talk more about India. They seem pretty invested in IORA. What's their vision for the organization and the region as a whole?
Well, given its location and historical ties, India's been a driving force behind a lot of IORA's initiatives. They've been especially active in maritime security, disaster risk reduction, and the blue economy, which is all about using ocean resources sustainably. India's vision for the Indian Ocean is outlined in their SAARC policy, security and growth for all in the region.
Security and growth for all in the region.
It emphasizes cooperation, inclusivity, and peaceful resolution of disputes.
So India's aiming for a win-win scenario. Security and prosperity for everyone involved. But let's be realistic, achieving that vision must come with some challenges, right? What are some of the hurdles India faces in trying to reach those goals for IORA and the region as a whole?
There are internal and external challenges. Internally, some of India's economic policies and its approach to building military partnerships in the region need to evolve to match their ambitions.
Yeah.
Externally, competition from China, especially in infrastructure development, presents a significant hurdle. For instance, China's investments in ports and other infrastructure projects across the Indian Ocean are seen by some as an attempt to expand their influence and challenge India's regional leadership.
So while India has a vision for a cooperative Indian Ocean, navigating these complex realities is no easy feat. It sounds like IORA is kind of a microcosm of the broader geopolitical landscape, a stage where economic interests, political ambitions, and the need for cooperation all come together. But let's rewind a bit. You mentioned IORA's unique tripartite structure, governments, businesses, and academics all working together. We talked about the governments. How do businesses and academia actually fit into this picture?
Well, that's what makes IORA really stand out. It recognizes that achieving its goals requires input from all parts of society. It's not just about governments making deals behind closed doors.
Right.
IORA has specific ways for businesses and academics to contribute to its initiatives. This ensures a more holistic approach to regional development.
So it's like a three-legged stool. You need all three legs to stand firm. Makes perfect sense. But before we dive into the specific roles of businesses and academics, let's talk about how IORA actually works day to day. Who's calling the shots? What's the decision-making process like?
At its core, IORA is an intergovernmental organization. The top decision-making body is the Council of Foreign Ministers, or COM. They meet every year to discuss progress and set the course for the future.
So it's like a big annual family reunion where all the members come together to discuss what's working, what's not, and what they want to achieve in the coming year.
You could say that. The COM is where the major decisions are made. It's a chance for member states to voice their concerns and work together on shared priorities.
Okay.
IORA also has a secretariat based in Mauritius. It acts as the administrative hub handling the day-to-day operations, coordinating activities, and supporting member states.
Okay, so we've got the Council of Ministers setting the strategic direction and the Secretariat keeping the wheels turning. But we're still missing a piece of the puzzle. Those other two legs of the stool, businesses and academics, how do they actually participate in this structure? Do they have a real voice at the table, or are they just consulted occasionally?
IORA has specific avenues for businesses and academics to engage and contribute to its initiatives.
Okay.
There are business forums, academic networks, and specialized working groups that bring together experts from different fields.
So it's not just diplomats and bureaucrats making all the calls.
Exactly.
There's a real effort to involve those who are driving economic growth and shaping the future of the region, entrepreneurs, innovators, and thinkers. That's impressive. But with so many players involved and such diverse interests at play, I can't help but wonder, what are the biggest challenges IRA faces in achieving its ambitious goals? What are the roadblocks that threaten to derail its progress?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is managing this diversity of membership. You have countries at different levels of economic development with different political systems and strategic interests. Finding common ground and getting everyone to agree can be a huge challenge. Imagine trying to get 22 people with different tastes to agree on what to order for dinner.
I can only imagine. And I'm guessing it's not just about agreeing on the menu. There are probably disagreements about who's paying the bill, who's doing the dishes, and who gets to choose the music right.
Exactly. It takes some serious diplomacy, a willingness to compromise, and a genuine commitment to the common good. Another challenge is the sheer number of regional organizations already operating in the Indian Ocean. It's a crowded space with different groups vying for attention and resources. This can lead to competition, duplication of effort, and confusion about who's doing what. It's like having multiple chefs trying to cook in the same kitchen. Sometimes they step on each other's toes, and the final dish isn't always as good as it could be.
So it sounds like IRA needs to be strategic and savvy, clearly define its role, leverage its strengths, and collaborate with other organizations to avoid getting lost in the crowd and maximize its impact.
Absolutely. And to be truly effective, IRA needs to constantly adapt and evolve, keep pace with the ever-changing dynamics of the Indian Ocean region. It's a dynamic environment full of opportunities and challenges, and IRA needs to be nimble and responsive to navigate it successfully.
This has been an incredible overview of IRA so far, its goals, its structure, and the complexities it faces. It's clear that this organization is much more than just a regional talking shop. It's a microcosm of the forces shaping the Indian Ocean, a region of immense strategic and economic importance. But we've only just scratched the surface. Join us in part 2 as we delve deeper into some of IRA's key initiatives, including its focus on maritime security and the fascinating concept of the blue economy.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we move on, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, IRA's diverse membership.
Right.
It's not just a logistical hurdle. It actually reflects the organization's commitment to inclusivity. Think about it. You have countries with completely different political systems, economic realities, and even historical baggage all coming together under this IRA umbrella.
Yeah, it's almost like a microcosm of the UN, but specifically focused on the Indian Ocean region, right? You've got democracies, monarchies, developed economies, emerging markets, former colonial powers, newly independent nations.
Exactly.
All trying to find common ground and work towards shared goals. It's a delicate balancing act, for sure.
It is. And that diversity of perspectives is actually one of IRA's biggest strengths. It forces them to consider a wider range of viewpoints and come up with solutions that work for everyone, not just a select few. It's not always easy, but when it works, it's a powerful example of what international cooperation can achieve.
That's a great point. It reminds us that true cooperation isn't about everyone agreeing all the time. It's about respecting differences, finding common ground, and working together despite those differences. Now, before we get too deep into IORA's specific initiatives, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, the blue economy.
Right.
It's a term we hear a lot these days, but I think it would be helpful for our listeners to have a clear understanding of what it actually means and why it's so important, especially for IRA.
Sure. The blue economy is all about recognizing the huge economic potential of the ocean, but in a way that puts sustainability and environmental protection first. It's about using the ocean's resources for economic benefit without depleting those resources or harming marine ecosystems.
Okay, so it's about finding that sweet spot where economic growth and environmental protection work together, not against each other.
Hmm.
But what does that actually look like in practice? What are some examples of blue economy activities?
The blue economy covers a lot of different sectors and activities. Sustainable fisheries and aquaculture are a big part of it, where we're carefully managing fish stocks and minimizing environmental impact. Then you have renewable energy generation from the ocean, things like wind wave and tidal power, providing clean and sustainable energy. And of course, there's maritime tourism, which, when done responsibly, can create jobs and boost local economies while preserving the beauty and biodiversity of coastal areas.
It's amazing how the blue economy touches so many different aspects of our lives, from the food we eat to the energy we use to how we spend our free time. But how does IORA actually contribute to developing the blue economy in the Indian Ocean region? Are they just talking about it, or are they taking concrete steps to make it happen?
IRA has actually made the blue economy one of its top priorities. They're actively working to develop policies, initiatives, and partnerships to support the growth of a sustainable blue economy. They've got a dedicated working group on the blue economy, and they're collaborating with member states, dialogue partners, and research institutions to develop and implement blue economy strategies.
So they're walking the walk, not just talking the talk. That's good to hear. But like with any ambitious endeavor, I'm sure there are challenges in making the blue economy a reality. What are some of the hurdles IRA faces in this area?
One of the biggest challenges is the lack of data and scientific knowledge about the Indian Ocean. To effectively manage and use its resources sustainably, we need a much deeper understanding of its ecosystems, biodiversity, and the impact of human activities. Imagine trying to manage a forest without knowing what types of trees are there or how they interact. It wouldn't end well. IORA is working to fill this knowledge gap by promoting research and data collection, but there's still a long way to go.
That's a great point. You can't manage what you don't understand. It's like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. Data and knowledge are essential foundations for a successful blue economy. But what about the practical side of things? What about actually implementing blue economy projects? What are some of the challenges there?
Well, a major challenge is the need for technology transfer and capacity building. Many countries in the Indian Ocean region don't have the technological infrastructure or the expertise to fully participate in the blue economy. It's like having a top-of-the-line kitchen but not knowing how to use the appliances. You need to learn the skills and acquire the tools to make the most of it. IRA is trying to address this by facilitating partnerships and knowledge exchange between countries that have the technology and those that need it.
So it's about leveling the playing field, making sure everyone has the opportunity to benefit from the blue economy. Not just those with the most advanced technology or the most money, that's great. But even with knowledge and technology, there's still the question of funding writing. Blue economy projects often require a lot of investment, and many countries in the region are already struggling with limited resources. How does IORA approach this challenge?
Funding is absolutely crucial. IRA is working to attract investment from a variety of sources, including international development agencies, private sector investors, and even through innovative financing mechanisms like blue bonds. These bonds are specifically designed to raise money for projects that have positive environmental and social impacts on the ocean. It's like a green bond, but for the ocean.
Blue bonds. That's a term I'm hearing more and more these days. Sounds like a promising way to direct investment towards projects that benefit both the economy and the environment. It's a win-win. But I'm curious, what are some specific examples of blue economy projects that IRA has supported or is currently working on?
There are a lot of initiatives underway. For instance, IORA is supporting projects to promote sustainable aquaculture in coastal communities. They're providing training and resources to help fishermen switch to more sustainable practices. They're also working on projects to develop renewable energy from ocean sources like offshore wind farms, which can provide clean energy to coastal communities and reduce their carbon footprint. And they're promoting initiatives to boost ecotourism, encouraging responsible tourism practices that benefit local communities while minimizing the impact on marine ecosystems.
It's great to see that IORA is taking such a well-rounded approach, tackling the blue economy from multiple angles, from sustainable fishing to renewable energy to responsible tourism. But let's not forget that the blue economy is just one piece of the puzzle. IORA has a much broader mandate, covering everything from trade and investment to maritime security to disaster risk reduction.
Yeah.
Speaking of maritime security, the Indian Ocean is a vital waterway for global trade and energy flows, and keeping those sea lanes safe and secure is paramount. How does IORA contribute to maintaining maritime security in the region?
That's a critical issue, especially with rising geopolitical tensions and the increasing threat of non-traditional security challenges like piracy, illegal fishing, and even terrorism. IORA recognizes that maritime security is a shared responsibility, and they're actively working to enhance cooperation among member states in several key areas.
What are some of those key areas? What specific actions are they taking to enhance maritime security?
One of the most important areas is maritime domain awareness, basically knowing what's happening at sea. Who's out there? What are they doing? Are they posing any threats? IRA is facilitating information sharing and collaboration among member states to improve their ability to monitor and track maritime activity in the region. They're also promoting capacity building, helping countries develop the capabilities they need to patrol their waters, respond to incidents, and enforce maritime law.
So it's about giving countries the tools and resources they need to be the guardians of their own waters. But what about those non-traditional security threats you mentioned earlier, things like piracy, illegal fishing, and terrorism? Those often cross borders and require a coordinated response from the entire region. How is IRA addressing those challenges?
IRA is taking a multi-pronged approach. They're working to strengthen law enforcement cooperation, making it easier for countries to share intelligence coordinate operations and prosecute criminals operating across borders. They're also promoting initiatives to address the root causes of these threats, things like poverty and lack of economic opportunities, which often drive people to engage in illegal activities. And they're working to build regional capacity to respond to maritime emergencies, such as oil spills or natural disasters.
This is all really impressive. IORA seems to be tackling these complex security challenges head-on, promoting cooperation, building capacity, and addressing the root causes of instability. It's a reminder that security isn't just about military might, it's also about addressing the underlying social, economic, and environmental factors that contribute to conflict and instability.
Exactly. And IRA's approach to maritime security highlights how interconnected these issues really are. You can't address piracy without tackling poverty and lack of opportunity. You can't protect marine ecosystems without addressing illegal fishing. And you can't build a secure and stable region without fostering cooperation and trust among all stakeholders.
That's a great point. IORA's work in maritime security goes beyond just patrolling the waters. It's about creating a more secure, stable, and prosperous region for everyone. This deep dive into IORA's maritime security initiatives has been really insightful. It's clear that they're taking a comprehensive and proactive approach to addressing the challenges facing the region. But as we know, IORA's mandate extends beyond just the blue economy and maritime security. They're also actively promoting other key initiatives, including a strong focus on women's economic empowerment.
That's right. IORA recognizes that empowering women isn't just a matter of social justice. It's crucial for sustainable economic development. In many Indian Ocean countries, women play a vital role in key economic sectors like fisheries, agriculture, and tourism. Yet they often face significant barriers to participation and leadership in these sectors. IORA is working to break down those barriers and create a more level playing field for women.
That's fantastic. It's about recognizing the untapped potential of women and ensuring they have the opportunities and resources they need to contribute to the region's economic growth. But I'm curious, how does IORA actually go about promoting women's economic empowerment? What specific actions are they taking?
IORA has made women's economic empowerment one of its priority areas. They have a working group specifically focused on this issue, and they're actively promoting initiatives to address the challenges women face.
So it's not just a nice-sounding statement. It's a core part of their agenda.
Yeah.
What are some examples of these initiatives?
They're doing a lot of great work. For example, IRA is supporting projects that provide women with training in business management, financial literacy, and technical skills. They're also working to promote women's access to markets, financing, and technology. And they're advocating for policy changes that create a more supportive environment for women entrepreneurs and business owners.
It's inspiring to see that IORA is taking concrete steps to empower women and create a more inclusive and equitable Indian Ocean region. But I think it would be helpful for our listeners to hear some specific examples of how these initiatives are making a difference in women's lives. Can you share any success stories or case studies?
Absolutely. One great example is a project IRRA supported in a coastal community in Indonesia. This project provided women with training in sustainable seaweed farming techniques, enabling them to start their own businesses and generate income for their families. The project not only empowered these women economically, but also helped to improve the sustainability of the local seaweed industry.
That's fantastic. It's a perfect example of how IRA's focus on women's economic empowerment can have a ripple effect, benefiting not just individuals, but entire communities and even the environment. It's about creating a win-win situation for everyone. This deep dive into IRA's work in promoting women's economic empowerment has been truly eye-opening. It's clear that they're not just paying lip service to this issue, but are taking concrete actions to make a real difference in women's lives. It's a powerful reminder that empowering women is not just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've spent the last two parts really getting to know IRA, its goals, its structure, how it handles the many challenges of the Indian Ocean region. But I kind of want to shift gears a bit and zoom out to the bigger picture. IRA doesn't exist in a bubble, right? It's part of this whole web of global geopolitics where power dynamics are constantly in flux and new challenges pop up all the time. So how does IRA deal with this ever-changing landscape? How does it position itself on the world stage?
That's a really important question, especially with all the changes we're seeing in the global order. The Indian Ocean region is becoming more and more important economically, strategically, even environmentally. It's got some of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, essential for global trade. It's got huge reserves of natural resources, energy, and fisheries that are vital for so many economies. And it's turning into this arena for competition between major powers like India, China, and the US as they all vie for influence.
It sounds like the Indian Ocean is a real hot spot, a place where the stakes are high and the competition is fierce. So how does IORA manage to stay relevant and effective in such a dynamic and contested environment?
IRA's got to walk a fine line. On one hand, they need to encourage regional cooperation and development, foster a sense of shared purpose and collective action among their member states. On the other hand, they have to navigate the strategic rivalries between those big players, especially India and China. Remember, China's an IORA dialogue partner, but its growing presence in the region economically and militarily, especially through the Belt and Road Initiative, is raising concerns in India and other countries.
So it's like they're trying to build bridges while also tiptoeing around these geopolitical fault lines.
Precisely. IRA needs to be seen as a neutral platform for dialogue and collaboration, a space where countries can come together and address shared challenges without feeling pressured to take sides or align with one power over another. They have to find ways to engage everyone constructively and avoid getting caught in the middle of these power struggles.
That sounds incredibly difficult, requiring some serious diplomatic finesse and a whole lot of strategic thinking. So looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges for IRA in the coming years? Can they actually reach their full potential and become a truly effective force for regional integration and development?
IRA's success in the future depends on a few things. Internally, they need to strengthen their institutions, make them more efficient, transparent, and responsive to their members' needs. They need to secure more reliable funding to support their activities so they're not always relying on voluntary contributions. And they need to improve their communication and outreach both within the region and globally.
So it's about getting their own house in order, streamlining their operations, making sure they have the resources and the visibility they need to be successful. What about those external challenges? What are some of the key factors beyond IRA's control that could impact its future?
One major external challenge is how the geopolitical landscape keeps changing. The increasing rivalry between the US and China, the conflict in Ukraine, the uncertainties in the global economy, all of these things will have an impact on the Indian Ocean region and could make IRA's work even harder. And then there's climate change. The Indian Ocean region is particularly vulnerable to its effects, rising sea levels, more frequent and intense storms. IRA is going to need to take a leading role in helping its members adapt to these challenges and build resilience to climate-related shocks.
Sounds like IRA is facing a pretty complex and constantly evolving landscape, full of both opportunities and obstacles. To navigate it all, they'll need to be flexible, strategic, and maybe most importantly, committed to those core values of cooperation, inclusivity, and sustainable development.
Absolutely. In the end, IRA's success will depend on the collective will and commitment of its members. If they can set aside their differences, really focus on their shared interests, and use IORA as a platform for dialogue and collaboration, then this organization has the potential to make a real and lasting difference, not just in the Indian Ocean region, but around the world.
This deep dive into IRA has been truly eye-opening. It's shown us that it's more than just a regional organization. It's a reflection of the challenges and opportunities we face in our interconnected world. It's a testament to the power of working together, the importance of open communication, and that enduring hope for a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable future for all.
And it underscores how important it is for all of us policymakers, academics, business leaders, even just concerned citizens, to stay informed about these issues and to support organizations like IRA that are working to make a real difference.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive into the Indian Ocean Rim Association. We hope you found it as fascinating and thought-provoking as we did. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information, and as always, stay curious.